Hey! Thanks for tuning in. You're watching the Dice Tower. So?
Hi, I'm Eric Summerer, and here's what's coming from the Dice Tower this week.
Hey folks, I'm back. I took some kids to camp this past week, so I was a little busy, and you noticed there was pretty much no reviews, but that is done with. Lots of exciting things, especially not this week, but next week. Two big things are starting. First of all, we're going to be doing a video series of previews of Gen Con. I've gotten together, I'm working on a definitive list of all the new Gen Con releases that are coming out, and so far I have over 80 games on that list. Very exciting to talk about and see those, and so we'll do some videos for those. Then next week, Eric Summerer, my co-host on the Dice Tower show, will be doing his top 100 games of all time. So he'll be starting that. That will start next week. So you have a chance to see what his best 100 games. Most people probably know what number 1 is, but what are the other 99? So we look forward to seeing that. In other news, well, I guess we should get to that. Board game news. Let's see, we have Sentinels of the Multiverse, a card game, cooperative superhero game, one I enjoy very much, has been announced by a newer company, Handelabra, I think I said that right, for the iOS and the Android tablets in 2014. So that's something to keep an eye out for. Several new cool things on Kickstarter. We have a Freedom, the Underground Railroad, which looks really fun, a cooperative game. But I love the theming of this game, helping slaves escape on the Underground Railroad during the days of the Civil War in America. Then we also have a hitchhiking game, Karma Race, so that's one to check out. And then let's see, Dragon Coins. Oh, hang on. I actually got a couple of these Dragon Coins. I'm always a big fan of different metal coins that can be used in games, and so these are pretty neat to see. They're very similar in size to the ones that come with the Dominion expansions. So this is just a neat, cool accessory, Dragon Coins. Anyway, Duel of Ages has released a way to build your own characters. In case the 100+ characters is not enough for you in that game, you can go and design your own. You can find that at their website. The Fantasy Flight has released some more information on Cosmic Encounters' upcoming expansion, which is something I'm always going to announce because it's the greatest game of all time. But they've also announced the Star Wars card game. A new expansion is going to allow it to be played with 4 players. So that's going to be interesting to see how that works. The game has gotten some pretty good buzz, and 4 players sounds interesting. I'm curious to see how they will do it. But that will be coming out soon. Now, of course, the hot news of the week is that Gen Con's 3 weeks away. You know, I feel like we should have this flash news screen countdown to Gen Con type thing, because the Gen Con is that important of a convention to board gaming these days. But one of the expansions that's going to be released at Gen Con is our hot news of the week, and that's In the Lab expansion for Pandemic. Now, Pandemic is a very popular cooperative game. It probably isn't too far off the mark to say it's the most popular cooperative game in existence at this point in time. The theme is great, so good that the game was that Z-Man redid it and re-released it so that they could sell it. I believe you can find it at Target and other great stores all over America. But when they redid it, things changed, so it wasn't compatible with the original game, at least in how the components worked out, so they had to release the first expansion on the Brink, and that came out just a month or so ago. But this expansion, the In the Lab expansion, is a completely new one. And what this one is all about is about curing the diseases. In the original game, you had 5 cards or 4 cards if you used the one guy that you would discard to cure an expansion if you're in the right spot. This has a very different way with tracks, and Z-Man Games has put a little bit of a preview up on how this works, and it just sounds really interesting to me to add kind of another kind of sub-game to Pandemic. So that's coming soon. Pandemic In the Lab. Games to review. As you can see, there is a lot of them here to take a look at. I have 3 weeks before we go to Gen Con, and so I'm going to try to get as many reviews done as possible. I think I can guarantee, hopefully, that all these up here will be reviewed. I just don't know how many will get done this week, although I'm telling you Forbidden Desert will show up very shortly, so keep an eye on that one. And then, of course, there's all these games that I haven't played yet, which might be reviewed soon, and you can see that there's quite a few of those on their way, too. So there's plenty for me to talk about. It's just a question of what will get reviewed, but reviews are coming, folks, and coming soon. In the Dice Tower Network, well, it's been 2 weeks really since I've gone over the different episodes that are coming out. So there's a lot that have come out in the past couple weeks. Ludology has released episode 60, in which they talk about how to play, or in its essence, rule books. How should rule books be written for games? So they're giving you the rule book on how to write rule books, I think. Plaid Hat number 99, I'm curious what they're going to do for 100. Did a game design brainstorm where Alex tossed out ideas and the game designers on the show had to design a game around those. Not Just Another Gaming Podcast at episode number 32, where they talk about DexCon 16, a convention held in New Jersey for those who were unfortunate enough not to be able to make it to Dice Tower Con at the same time. Gameopolis has a very special episode that's going to affect the future of that podcast, so I really encourage you to go and give that one a listen to. If you're a fan of the show at all, that's on the Gameopolis. Secret Cabal number 46, they talk about Belfort, and they talk about board game themes and a bunch of other things. Flip the Table takes a look at the most fantastic Gargoyles, the movie game. I don't know where they find this stuff. D6 Generation released episode 129, in which they talk to the designer of Rivet Wars, Ted Terranova, and they also review Bioshock from Plaid Hat Games. Rolling Dice and Taking Names, episode number 17, they go over some things that happened at Origins this year, and also about gaming etiquette. Can I touch your pieces, sir? No, you may not, and things like that. Exploring Games with Chris, number 13, he talks about iOS games. And then, of course, we have a new, if you missed Board Game University, we had a design panel last week. I have several designers that I will be interviewing today and tomorrow, and I'm not sure which of those will come up, but every Thursday, Board Game University is released, in which we talk to designers and publishers, so some really cool things coming there. And then, of course, the Dice Tower. This week, we're releasing a classic episode. This is episode 35, I believe, where Joe and I talk. This is back in 2006, and we ask our wives questions and see what they think about our board gaming hobby. Alright, folks, it's time to talk again about why I keep the games that I do. This is my Settlers of Catan and other games shelf. I have 3 boxes here of Settlers of Catan. I have almost everything for Settlers of Catan. I don't actually have the Cities and Knights stuff in here, but I have the new Explorers and Pirates, Seafarers and Settlers, and then some of the Traders and Barbarians things, and then other little expansions I picked up as time has gone by. This is also my party game shelf. I have Time's Up and Time's Up Title Recall. Both absolutely great party games, apples to apples. I have, I think, like 4 different expansions and mixtures in these boxes. And so that's a game I pull out every once in a while. Squint Jr., which is a really fun game if you've not played it. I actually like it better than regular Squint. I'm not sure I even have regular Squint, but Squint Jr. had these clear cards, which was a cool thing. Thingamajig, which is an underrated party game in which you're trying to get people to guess a word that comes on a little buzzer here, but you don't want everyone to get it. Snorta is a stupid party game, but it's really fun to watch and participate in from out-of-the-box games. I then have, this is not a party game, this is an abstract game, Quinamid, which is one of my favorite abstract games because it's about getting 5 in a row, but you can slide the board around, twist the board, and that adds a lot of neat things to it. And then here's a cool little game, Expedition Sumatra, the dice game. Very fun Yahtzee-style dice game. One of the reasons I hang on to this is because there's so few of them in existence, and I'm really pleased to have one of those copies. Regiment is a game. It's a new cooperative game. I did a review on it a few weeks ago. I don't think it's the best cooperative game, but again, it's one that's kind of rare, so that's why I've hung on to it for now at least. I don't know how long it will stay here. This brown box here holds my extra pieces for Agricola, well, there's so much stuff in Agricola, I wasn't able to fit it all in one box. Ugh! And that box is heavy as it is, so some of the pieces and things are in this box. Colossal Arena, a great 3-player game. Well, it's even better than that. It's a redone version of Titan the Arena, a great game from Fantasy Flight, one that's not talked about much these days, but an older game I keep. And then I got some kids games here. Toss your cookies, take the cake, step to it, hide and eek. All of those are ones that my kids enjoy playing. Toss your cookies, you actually toss cookies. Take it to the cake, you put sprinkles on cake. Step to it, you have to walk around the house to get the spots. And hide and eek, a game of hiding mice and elephants. So, that's that shelf. I kind of struggled for something to speak this week because I haven't been on the internet as much, and so I haven't been able to read the hot topics of buzz that are going around, because there's always something that people are talking about. But one of the things that struck me as I was showing you that shelf of games was the fact that I mentioned a couple of those games I kept because they were rarer than others. But when I keep games, there are some games I'll keep because I'm the only person I know who has that game, but I also will only keep the game if it's fun. Now, I love the Flip the Table podcast, and they review some pretty awful games, and they have a lot of fun doing so. But I don't want to ever inflate my collection with games that are just really not that fun just because they're rare. Now, this is certainly different from me and other people. To me, having something in your house that's rare is no good if it's not useful. You know, it reminds me of when I was a kid. There are people who had comic books and they never read the comic books. They just collected them, put them in the dust jackets, and then never opened them. If you have games, they should be played. You say, but this game's so valuable. Well, then sell it and buy some games that are fun. Now, granted, that's just a personal opinion on my part because there are people who collect games and have a lot of fun. This was something we talked about because what I did was I had the deluxe version of the Settlers of Catan, and it's really cool looking and it's quite valuable at this point in time, but I don't play it as often. And I said, well, what we should do is we should donate it to the Dice Tower Convention, and then that's a place that people play games like that. And one of my friends highly disagrees with me. He says I should sell it or auction it off and get the money for it. And I thought about that because getting money for it's nice, but the thing is, if I auction it off, it's probably going to go to somebody who is going to take it and say valuable and stick it on their shelf somewhere. But if I give it to the convention, then the convention is going to play it. People there are going to see it and it's going to get played. The same comes when I sell my games. I sold all my games at Dice Tower Con, and that was certainly a fun experience, just being there. And at the end, the last game, I said I'll give someone $1 if they take it, because at the end it was getting to be kind of cruddy games. But there's a lot of games there, and I suppose I could go out of my way and sell them and make a decent amount of money on them. But I just want to get some money. Is nice because it helped pay for me eating at the convention. But the important thing is when I give those games at the conventions and some of the people for low prices, those people are going to play those games. And also, a lot of those folks are in the Florida community, which is where I'm at, and so they will be playing the games and they stay in the area. And that's the thing. If I hate a board game, I'm not going to keep it on my shelf because it's valuable. I'd rather give it to someone who likes the game and will play it. Even though I hate it doesn't mean that other people will. And so I don't know. There was this moment many years ago, probably 7 or 8 years ago, where I said, why am I keeping games I don't like? That doesn't make any sense at all. So I got rid of all the games that I just hated. Then I got rid of games that I didn't like. Then I got rid of games that I thought were okay. Then I got rid of games that I thought were good but not great. Nowadays, I'm getting rid of games that I think are very good, but they have to be great to stay on my shelf. So it's kind of a progression. Again, if you're a collector, so be it. But I just wanted to explain how I do things because, it's neat to see these games here. And this is the shelf behind me of games to be reviewed and played. How many of these games will make my shelf? And you say, well, there's not that many of them. Well, I'll tell you this. Of all these games here, I know one of them is going to make my game shelves for sure. It's a fantastic game. In fact, I'll review it this week. There's one that's going to make my shelf probably. I'm just not certain because of the size of the box. And then there's a couple here that are expansions, and they're easy enough they'll fold into. But of all the rest of them here, probably not going to keep any of them except the great one, which you can guess which one that might be. And then down here with the ones I have not played yet, maybe some of them will make it. But just because I don't keep them doesn't mean it's not a great game for you. A good example is Time and Space. Time and Space is a very fun game with timers. It's neat, and when I review it, you'll see it has some pretty interesting aspects to it, and it's a really good game. But for me, it's not great, so it doesn't stay on my shelves. But I never want you guys to take that as an indication of, oh, well, you didn't keep it, so I'm not going to get it. No, because you might love it. And just because I don't keep my shelves doesn't mean it's not a good game. I'm just running out of room. And so once I started getting rid of games, it was a lot easier. But taking all this aside, if there was a game here, let's say, for example, that this Robin Hood game here, which is a great game, let's say this was very rare and it was worth $200, but it wasn't that good of a game. Well, why should I keep it then? There's no reason to. Probably I can sell it to a collector and he'll stick it on his shelf. But for me and my house, I'd prefer to sell these games to people who I know will enjoy it, even if it's a game I hate. And that's it for this week. Don't forget you can find much of the gaming news at GameBugle.com. There's all sorts of other things going on. A top 10 list may show up this week. Probably not as controversial as our last one. Our next top 10 will be top 10 games that are 20 years old or older. So that you don't think we're just cult of the new. What are our best old games? So that is coming, and wow, there's some more previews coming. Lots of cool stuff. You know what? I need to get to work on that. I'll see you guys next week.
To find out more about all of our podcasts, check out DicetowerNetwork.com. To see a listing of our videos, head to Dicetower.com. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Cool Stuff Incorporated, where you can buy games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock.
Shut the door.